Welcome to the 98 Central podcast, where we talk about growing a business, working in media, and building a team that we love. I'm Kyle Jewell, social media strategist here at 98 Central, and sitting across from me today is Sarah Beth, our producer at 98 Central. Hey, Sarah Beth.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How was your first 2 months here, Ben?
Yeah, this is the end of the 8th week. It's been great. It's
awesome.
flying by. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well,
I feel like I just started yesterday. It's come by so fast.
Time works differently.
Time flies when you're having fun.
That's true. Tell us a little bit about your role as producer. What all does that entail?
I kind of look at a lot of behind the scenes work. When we find out we're taking on a new project, whether it's podcasts, we have needs for that, or a production for one of our clients that may be done on location, just kind of sourcing talent, locations, props, wardrobe, thinking about all those planning kind of details. And then, on location, making sure everything is running along smoothly. We're staying on track, food, crafty, just everything is just running like clockwork. So it's as smooth as possible. There's a lot. That's a loaded question.
Yeah, just those few things to cover, right?
Just a couple of things.
What is among those, what is your favorite? I know the answer.
Talent.
Yeah.
Talent's like a challenge, finding the right person or people. It's like a little puzzle, especially when you're trying to make people or put together a group of people who, for example, look like a family. I feel like that comes up a lot in the history, or not history, but in my career. I've had a lot of requests for making a family situation or dynamic, and so I take it really seriously, trying to really study everybody's height and their hair color and the shape of their face and all these little details to try and make it believable, because you want it to be as believable as possible. Yeah. And so I've had some pretty decent luck in the past, and for who can see me, I'm knocking on wood or hear that. But again, right now I'm actually working on one that's the largest I've ever done. It's a family of 12 people, so I really got my work cut out for me. I just want it to be as believable as possible. So I take it pretty seriously, and I love the challenge.
Yeah, it is intimidating to go into your office and see that your entire whiteboard is covered with a potential family tree.
Yes, I will put it together like a family tree and group people together. You get casting links, or you can look online from different resources, and you're reviewing reels. But sometimes just when I'm trying to make sure people look like they make sense together, and these child actors look like they could be the children of the people playing the parents. Is that believable? So I will kind of make this war room, whether it's a cork board or dry erase board, taping it up, and if I can step back and look at it, I can get a good idea and cross people out, kind of hone in. So it's kind of the method to my madness. I don't know if everybody works that way, but it works for me. So
it does work. So let's talk a little bit more about talent.
Okay.
Maybe some people listening haven't cast talent before for a project, but they have this great idea for some really creative content. They just want to crush it. Why should agencies or companies looking to produce their own content, why should they use talent?
Sometimes it just depends on the concept of what you're trying to produce. A lot of times talent just, they're trained, their actors are trained in different genres. Comedy can be all about the timing. Physical comedy, it's different from being kind of a spokesperson or a host, subject matter expert when you're maybe doing a case study sort of situation. So you're looking for very specific talent. And while it can seem natural to want to do friends and family, and that can be a great way to save money if you're working with a little bit of a limited budget. But people who maybe are less comfortable in front of the camera, don't have the acting classes or training. And then sometimes you just get into little hiccups where people may not understand what they're getting into. And then all of a sudden
you're committed.
You're committed, but you end up with no shows, and all of a sudden you're on set and people kind of bail at the last minute. I don't think anybody does it from, a bad place. It just maybe nerves set in. So you kind of have to, figure out what works. I mean, the benefit of working with friends and family when you can is that some people have like a natural chemistry.
Hmm.
And I've done that with paid talent. If I know somebody, working with younger kids, and I can get both parents are models or actors and they have children, sometimes the kids are more comfortable with their families.
Yeah.
So, there are pros and cons, definitely to each, but sometimes, you kind of get what you pay for,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah. And if you're putting a big brand project together, right, and it's something that's going to be like a capstone piece for your brand, you want it to look and feel great, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's the benefit of
Exactly. Again, you have that friends and family. If you have somebody who's really passionate, they love the company they're working for and they're excited to help be a part of this and promote it, that shines through naturally. But again, on the flip side, you have actors who are trained, they're studying the scripts, they're taking direction, and they can embrace that too and just, let that shine through with their talent. This is their area of expertise. This is why they do what they do. And so it can work out better because at the end of the day, these people are the face of your brand. They're becoming the face of the product you're trying to sell, the service you're trying to sell. And so, you just have to keep that in mind. So, paid talent can definitely be worth it when you can make the budget work, and there are ways to make that happen.
Yeah. You just talked about budget. If I'm creating a video, right, and I want to go source talent, does that mean that I have to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to bring in some talent, some professional to do a piece for me?
No, you really don't. There is always going to be a question of usage. You have certain mediums that are going to be more expensive than others. I'll say, we work in video, so I'll say broadcast. That is, you're looking at impressions, exposure, the number of people. So broadcast is going to be one of the most expensive things you'll pay for. So you have to take certain factors like that into consideration. But you can go to agencies who will have their usage fees, their session fees, which is the time they're actually on set, and then, usually a 20% agency fee. Then you may have to work in travel mileage. But there are resources out there. There are sites online where you're looking for actors. So you go to like a backstage.com or VO Talent, Voice 123. I like that one a lot. Or you can go directly to the talent. You can set up auditions and casting calls and get self-tapes from people, which is becoming more of the norm, review reels and kind of hone in on what you're looking for and follow up that way and work directly with the person. And sometimes they have representation, but they want to take on the extra work that they may not be hearing about.
Sure.
And so we just worked with a great guy that happened to do that exactly. And we were able to save some money here and there and work out a great deal based on usage. And we just covered, hotel and mileage, and we got a lot of bang for our buck, and he was great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the people are out there. Like, don't be afraid to look to some of those resources that seem a little bit more non-traditional.
Yeah. Yeah. And they aren't that. I mean, I'm not going to, it's relative, I guess, in terms of expensive or affordable. But if you're thinking that you have to spend like $10,000 on talent for a spot, not always. I mean, you can find talent for what, $1,000, $2,000, maybe even less if you're doing like voiceover. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, voiceover, you're not being seen, so that definitely helps. And then you're going to pay $10,000 easily if you're looking for 10 different people. So you have to keep that in mind, especially if you're pulling in from, it's not necessarily local talent, but, we're working on one now that we're finding a spokesperson for multiple videos. They're maybe a minute to minute and a half long, and so you're paying for that number. But we've got a decent budget for that, and we're making it work. So we're going again that kind of non-traditional route, just based on the client's usage. Having something in perpetuity is something that a lot of clients are asking for, because they want to be able to use these things on their websites or something like that for forever, as long as they can. And when you get into the agencies, the talent agencies, I am finding that they're just stepping away from perpetuity because they feel like it keeps their actors from getting work.
Yeah.
If they think this video is out there and maybe another potential client in the same industry wouldn't want to hire them. And so this, that's where, again, like going directly to the person and working with them, they're a lot more open-minded and and willing to make some of those exceptions.
Gotcha. Let's take a look into your process now, or maybe you when you first started. What is the first thing somebody should do? Where should somebody start if they're about to start sourcing talent for a spot?
Okay, the first place, I think knowing your budget, what you have to work with. And like I said, I've kind of alluded to this at least. The most important thing I think is that budget, and part of the budget is not only how much do you have to spend, but you have to know how and where it's going to be used. I mentioned broadcast is very expensive. Right now, CTV and OTT are not quite there yet because not everybody has the smart TV or is not quite at the cord cutting place. I imagine that will change over the next few years. And the whole landscape has changed with, social media and obviously websites. It's kind of, you put on a website, you put it in social media, it is out there forever in one way or shape or form. So just knowing and understanding that. And so then whether you're coming to a company like us and saying, this is my budget, this is what I have to work with, and this is what I need to get from this, then we can use our resources, or you can approach a talent agency on your own, or even, like I said, go to like a backstage.com where you can put out a casting call and you can, or Voice 123 if it's VO, and put in your budget, because there are actors out there who might be newer but are fantastic, or somebody who's they've got a lot of work in one vertical, but they want to make their portfolio just a little bit expanded. So they're willing to take on a project maybe in a different genre and just to add to their portfolio. So they're willing to sacrifice the dollars for the opportunity. So just start where you can, see what you get, and then if you have to raise a little bit. But I think just that budget is the right place to go, and then moving from there. But you're going to get a lot of questions about how it's used from people, regardless of which route you're going to go. So you want to be as knowledgeable as you can to make sure you're getting the best options. I think that's the number one place to start. Yeah,
that's awesome. In all of your experience in sourcing talent, what are some of those little things that maybe somebody who's finding talent for the first time, those unexpected items or unexpected challenges that are going to almost inevitably pop up?
Sometimes things that you may not think of, and it's certainly early on in my career didn't think about, talent and needing to specify union versus non-union. I think probably the union everybody thinks of is SAG-AFTRA. And there are just a lot of compliance rules, regulations that you'd have to work around. So always trying to find non-union. There's a lot of different unions out there, some for theater actors, all sorts of things. But again, like some people are more willing to work within certain parameters than others. So, that can be a surprise. You don't want to fall in love with somebody and then find out they're SAG-AFTRA and you just can't, you present that to a client and you can't do it. Like that's kind of the worst feeling in the world. And then, again, we've hit the usage right, just knowing what's realistic in your budget. So you don't, again, fall in love with somebody. And even before I present to the client, like sometimes I call it my gut, like my little spidey sense, my gut feeling where I'm like, this is the person for the job. But I try to make sure somebody's available before I present them to the client, because, then some of our clients are not necessarily the companies itself, but perhaps an agency who's representing a client. And so you don't want to put them in a position where it's like, oh, we want to go with Mary, and Mary's not available that day. So, I try to be very clear when I'm casting about what the shoot date is and where, and so they can, they're not really, you're not getting options where people aren't available. Little odds and ends like that, I guess. It just, you learn a lot by doing and just having to answer a lot of questions. So just don't be afraid to ask and say, let me see what I can do, because sometimes you're really surprised.
Yeah, that's great. The biggest challenge for you when you're sourcing talent, is there something that always seems to pop up for you that's just a really difficult thing to overcome? I know you've talked about usage, union. Is there anything else, like scheduling maybe, that's the biggest challenge?
Scheduling can be interesting, especially when it comes to children, actually. Children and even babies, that's something we're working with right now. A baby has a routine, the nap, the feeding, the everything is, and parents, I'm not a parent, but I have friends who are, and I know that they try to keep the babies and young children's routine very, strict. And so being able to have some flexibility in your shoot schedule to work around that, because if you're shooting baby, if you want happy baby, that's what you're going for. You want to make sure you're kind of being accommodating and having even props close by that the baby's familiar with that has smells, like the baby's own blanket if you're going to prop out a nursery. And then children too, you may be asking them to wake up early in the morning. So it's kind of
grouchy.
They can be a little early. I've had some times where I'm like, okay, you have to be on set at 7, but guess what? You're eating ice cream, or we're going to an animal farm. And it's kind of fun because they get there and their faces light up. So right down to like having the right kind of snacks and little things to keep them happy.
That would work for me too, by the way. Animal farm or ice cream at 7 a.m.
I mean,
for future reference.
I'm sure the parents loved us for that sugar rush in the morning, but it's just, I think keeping with routine as much as possible. And so that's kind of a challenge, but it's a challenge that is worth finding the best solution for. I'm trying to think of the right term or phrasing for that, but it makes it worth it because you keep, the kids happy and comfortable and engaged, and make sure they're even engaged when they're not being used. They have something to do and occupy their time. I like to bring coloring books and crayons and markers and ask them to draw me pictures of something, just something to keep them occupied so they don't get distracted. And because the second they are, you can kind of lose them.
Yeah.
So, kids, I adore kids, but I mean, the fact of the matter is they're young. They know what they're doing, but not entirely understand the bigger picture or the bigger purpose. So, just being conscientious of children and kind of casting that can be, because I've had some that have been a handful and some that have been an absolute joy that amazed me. I'm like, I just blow my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 going on 25, 30, like so polite,
Yeah, that's awesome. So, we've talked a lot about usage so far. I just want to kind of make it clear, it might be something that's scaring some people if they're like, oh my gosh, I have to think about this thing now. In your opinion, is it worth throwing out like your first choice actor because you will only get usage for 2 years? I mean, 2 years it seems like a short period of time, right? But if you're on social and website, that's an eternity almost.
That is. No, I don't think it's worth throwing out your first choice because, sometimes it's just a little negotiation. If somebody wants a part bad enough, they may be willing to compromise. And the client, if they want somebody, they just, like I said, clients fall in love with people, I feel like the way I do when I get my little gut feeling. And so sometimes they're willing to compromise on that usage. So I don't think you have to settle. And, it's just, always have a backup, I think, just in case. And, always try to go to your clients with multiple options because just because you think somebody is the best doesn't mean they fit the part. Sometimes it's just kind of seeing it come together to make it, make sense and click. Just kind of can make all the difference in the world. So, I mean, don't be afraid. I mean, the worst you can do is ask, and the worst thing that can happen is say no and you find somebody else because there will be somebody else out there. Yeah. Everybody's unique, but there are people out here out there who can do the job just as well.
That point to me has been my biggest lesson learned here so far is that there's a huge pool of people out there who are willing to work with you for any different style, any different industry, any different budget. Like there's somebody there.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe the biggest takeaway from this for people who are finding talent for the first time is that you can find someone there. If you can't afford somebody to be on camera, you can find a VO actor. Maybe you put some really nice B-roll together and you find somebody who does great VO. You save a little bit and see how that works. And you can kind of build up your process, your confidence for the next thing with an on-screen.
Exactly. I mean, it can be start smaller. And then especially if it's your first time working with them on a project like that, you show what you can do, build their trust, from soup to nuts, not just about the talent, but then they have the trust, the faith, they know you know what you're doing and you have their best interest in mind. Like it's, yes, we're a business. We need to make money, but that's not what it's all about. Like we want to produce great content.
Yeah.
And, I know if you're an agency, you want to do for that for your clients. And, if you're a company that's trying to do something on your own, you want to do something that's best for your business. So, like I said, there's a fine line between being insulting or like lowballing something, because you want to respect what these people are doing in their time and make it somewhat worth their while. But like I said, there are people who are hungry, and they may not have, depending on what you're shooting to, they may not have all the experience in the world. But it's worth starting where you think you can, seeing what you get, and then if you have to negotiate a little bit better, you do that.
Yeah.
So it's possible. Don't limit yourself by that. I mean, it's something important to know, but don't limit yourself.
That's great. Do you have any other last pieces of advice for people looking for talent?
I would say, a lot of times, I know in our case, we get direction of what, our clients are looking for, and having worked on the agency side, I've seen, copywriters put together a script, and they know, what they have in mind. They have this vision of how this whole spot's going to come together. And I even imagine the perfect person. And so you might be looking for somebody based on a certain look, right down to a hair color, but you're going to get submissions that don't necessarily meet the requirements you sent. You look at a photo first, don't look at just one headshot and dismiss them, because sometimes it's just not the best headshot of them. And then, you can see somebody in a suit and tie, but you're casting a father. You switch to or go through their photos first. And I've seen somebody who is playing with a child, in a playground. And then I'm like, all of a sudden I see that guy as the dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so it changes my opinion. So, I'm glad I just didn't go by that first photo and dismiss them. And before you're moving on to reels and reviewing their acting capabilities. So, and just, you have one thing in mind, but people can really surprise you. Like in an audition, if you're getting self-tapes and you're giving them a little bit of the script aside to read, they come back and they just really surprise you. And and that's always so pleasant. And especially when you're like, I didn't expect this, but I'm going to throw them in the mix. And the client's like, I love that person. It's like, you're like, man, I'm so glad I did that. It's very rewarding for me, just because of my job and it being my favorite. But it's kind of that old adage, don't judge a book by its cover. Yeah. I think keep an open mind. You have what you want in the back of your mind, but don't box it in.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like I've learned a ton about talent today, which is great because I don't get to do a ton with it here yet. I mean, we've worked on a project recently with talent, so I've gotten to learn that whole process. But this is awesome for people who maybe they're growing their content team, or they're just starting to work with an agency, or maybe it's an agency who's just starting to offer production services. This is an awesome first step or place to start.
It's a lot, and it's hard to keep it at top level sometimes, but a lot of it's learning by doing. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, and even we're here to help. I mean, I will help anybody in the world wants to come to me with a question. So, that's what we're here for, whether we're totally doing it or not. So just don't be afraid to ask questions.
Awesome.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Sarah Beth, what are you digging this week?
Digging. I love this time of year. I love the heat, the spring, summer, the heat and everything, but I love just because it means you can go outdoors and do things. And so I'm pretty excited. The farmers market in downtown Greenville just opened up at the beginning of the month, and I was able to go last weekend, and probably going to go again tomorrow if the weather holds out. But I just love going out, being outside, fresh air, people watching, bumping into friends, but getting all these products that are, whether it's farm to table or just local businesses, small businesses, if you're, buying soaps and candles and just, supporting all those local businesses. It feels good to be out in the community and doing something good.
Did you buy anything last weekend?
Not at all. Oh, no? Gosh. I mean...
That's impressive.
No, I'm kidding. I stocked up on my carbs between my stecca and all of my pastas, and then some pasta sauces and barbecue sauces and candles that I didn't really need but smelled so good. Soaps. I mean, it was the first one I was at, so of course I just wanted to buy everything. But I did get all of my vegetables and everything too. So
good. I
was staying healthy and fruits.
Proud of you.
Strawberries, you just smell strawberries in the air, and that just makes me happy.
Yeah.
So it's great just strolling around. So it's one of my favorite times of the year. So that's kind of where my happy place is right now. Yeah. So that's what I'm digging. What about you?
What am I digging? Oh my gosh. I've been watching Barry on HBO. So funny.
Really?
Very good.
I've not heard of it.
It's getting a little darker now though, but
is this a new
great show? Not new. When did it come out? I don't know.
I've been
Danielle
living under a
actually would
rock.
know.
Okay, so I'm living under a rock.
Yeah, basically. If you have HBO, you should check it out. It's very funny.
Okay.
The premise is there's this assassin and
Okay.
he joins an improv comedy class. I feel like that's all you need to know. It's great.
I will need to check that out.
Yeah.
Thanks for the tip.
Sweet. Well, thanks again, Sarah Beth, for
Sure.
sharing your wisdom with me and the world. And thanks for tuning in for the 98 Central podcast. Once again, I'm Kyle. That's Sarah Beth. Check us out on social, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Check out our YouTube. Find us on our website. If you have questions, concerns about talent, let us know. We're here to help. Thanks, guys. So, John, when we're on this side, we usually try to be quiet. Welcome to the 98 Central podcast, where we talk about growing a business, working in media, and building a team we love. What was funny?
I'm sorry.
Sounds like AJ goes to IKEA like every weekend.